All right, welcome back. When I say back to Homa Bay County, the venue of the Devolution Conference 2025, county number 43, today being the very last day of this forum. And we do expect the Deputy President later this morning to actually officiate the official closure, the official closing ceremony of this Devolution Conference. And we continue having conversations and taking stock of devolution 12 years on and talking to partners. One of the partners that we have on set today is EABL, and we're privileged to have Eric Niti, EABL Corporate Relations Director, with us. Good morning, Karibu Sana.
Good morning.
Yes, and many people may wonder, okay, what does EABL have to do with county governments? Probably we start from there. Yeah. How is EABL partnering with county governments to probably promote economic empowerment and sustainability of some of the projects you have?
Thank you. I think if you look at the work the county governments are doing, some of the devolved functions are touching on our sector. Yes. If you look at agriculture, for example, which is one of the areas that we play a big role in the economy, is a devolved function. And then you look at alcohol licensing, is another area that we work with the county governments, because we want to ensure that the regulations that are already in place are being enforced in the right way. So, and you find that across our value chain, which is quite integrated, from the farmer to the bars that are selling the products that we manufacture, there are a lot of SMEs that are involved. And one of the things that we are trying to do is how do we empower these SMEs? And one of the things that we try to do, even from our sourcing value chain, is that we're trying to look at how do we move to 100% local sourcing, because we believe by putting money in people's pockets is that's the only way the economy can grow. So if you look at our value chain at the moment, we have about 47,000 farmers. We have a big number from Homa Bay, which is one of our success stories. Since we established the Kisumu Brewery, we source a lot of sorghum from this region. We also have over 500 suppliers that are supplying us with different components that we use within our space, whether it's in the manufacturing sector or even in our marketing space, where we are doing a lot of activities within the bars. Then you also find that we have also integrated, like within Homa Bay, working with people living with disabilities as farmers. And this is also driving the issue of inclusion, because we also want to ensure that every Kenyan has an opportunity to participate in economic development.
Yes, and if we may focus on agriculture a bit, you say you have a lot of farmers here. And if we may focus on Homa Bay a bit,
yes.
What are the main programs that you carry out in this county?
So I'm saying in Homa Bay we have about 5,000 farmers, which is the output here actually is one of the best within the western region. Of course, the conditions are very favorable for us, and what you've done is managed to work with a number of farmers who are growing other crops before, but now they have a cash crop that they can actually rely on. One of the things we do is we provide a guarantee before you even start farming. We give you the price, we are going to buy, we are all going to be the off-takers, so you already have a ready market for that. We compensate them for transportation to our Kisumu plant, so that they can get the crop to us there. And one of the things that also emerged is, in terms of small businesses, that we have had investors coming in to provide like threshing machines, and those are local people who are fabricating machines that could have been very expensive to be imported from outside the country, but now they're able to make it locally and provide these services to the farmers across the region at a very affordable rate.
Yes. 12 years of devolution, EABL has been there, has existed even before. How has devolution assisted your business?
I think devolution has really made life easier for a lot of Kenyans. I think if you think about access to services, for example, where sometimes, with the old system of provincial administration, you needed to go to the provincial headquarters. You find, like now within Homa Bay, you had to go to Kisumu to get some of the services. Now you don't have to get that hassle. You can get it closer to home. And I think that has helped in terms of access to services, accessibility for things like health, which I think is a big thing. And I think even the support that we're seeing even the farmers getting from the counties in terms of agricultural support, I think we have some good success stories. Homa Bay is a good one. Murang'a is another good county that we've been able to partner with on sorghum, where the county is helping support the farmers with seed, and also linking us up so that we can provide a ready market for them.
Okay. And beyond the core business of EABL, I'm sure you do engage in some other community projects.
Yes.
Do you still partner with the devolved units for that?
Yes. So we are doing a lot of work, especially like on water provision. So what happens is that in most cases, and the best success stories we've had, is that when we've done water projects, we usually hand over to the county. Because again, water provision is a county function. So the counties are able to support them in terms of ensuring they are more sustainable. You don't want a place where you do a borehole, then 3 years down the line, the community comes and says the borehole is not working anymore. Because once you hand them over to the counties, they're able to make sure they're sustainable, charge a small fee so that it can be able to cater for its running costs. We are now going into the area of solarizing most of these projects so that you don't have to use power. But we have seen more scale when we've partnered with the county water boards, because that helps them become more sustainable.
And in terms of growth, the different counties are growing at different rates.
Yes.
Are you saying that yes, you have more success even as a business with some counties as opposed to others?
Definitely. And even in terms of the business environment, if you look at things like liquor licensing, which is a big headache for many bar owners, which are mainly SMEs, and I think one of the things that we've really urged the counties to look at is how do you make them appropriate for the county that you work in. So it's not about creating many bars, but I think it's having sustainable bars, because also too many bars cannot be sustainable. You might find that the profits are not coming through. Yes. So how do you look at in terms of the density, in terms of how profitable some of these bars can be, and in terms of the experience for the consumer, in terms of providing basic facilities like washrooms and things like that. And you realize that whole hospitality ecosystem creates a lot of opportunities for different entrepreneurs, whether it's car wash that you find near those bars, you find salons, barber shops, you find people doing food. How do we integrate this? Because they are going to contribute positively to the economy of the counties and also create jobs for the youth of this country.
Yes. When it comes to policy formulation, because now we're talking about 47 different counties. We've had the discussion that Nakada had, and many people are arguing that this is a discussion that should be had at the county level. Do you agree that probably such discussions should be devolved?
Some of those conversations should be devolved because, and I think it's clear, even as the law provides at the moment, the Constitution, alcohol regulation is a county mandate. And I think Nakada, to some extent, are stepping that mandate, trying to remove it from the counties. Because the licensing component, for example, is done by the counties, whether it's you're licensing a supermarket, a bar, or a wine and spirit. That's the role of the counties. And I think what Nakada tried to address is the issue of underage drinking. There are ways to enforce whatever is existing at the moment, because we have laws that deal with that. And I think it's how do we work with the county governments? How do we work with the national government at the county leadership level, with the national government officials, that's the chiefs, DCs and the county commissioners, to enforce, because I think the challenge we have is enforcement. I think we don't have a challenge of we need more regulations. I think if we enforce what's currently existing, it will work. And I think it's about the collaboration between the national and county governments. And I think county governments are well within their rights now to be able to do a bit of work on that.
So you'd say that whatever Nakada was proposing could be leading to a clawback on the gains that we've had,
and conflict with the Constitution.
Yes. All right. So from this conference, maybe you've attended a few sessions there. And what is your biggest takeaway from this?
I think the biggest takeaway is that we've made so much progress in the last 15 years since devolution was introduced in the Constitution. And I think if you look at what has been achieved so far, and even listening to some of the achievements the governors have articulated, I think you can see there's a bit of progress. There's still a long way to go, but I think there's a base that has been created in terms of how we can pivot to create better opportunities for Kenyans. And I think the thing that I would really want to get out of such conferences is how do we drive ease of doing business? Because one of the things as manufacturers we face is ease of doing business. It's levies and taxes and licenses that make it very expensive for people to do business in Kenya. And I think that's one of the things that we should now continuously track and say, how do we rank the counties in terms of doing business? So for us, I'll tell you, for example, when we move goods from Nairobi or from Kisumu plant to another county, you find there are different levies and licenses that you have to pay just for moving the finished product. It's not even selling, because for us, we are selling to a distributor. It's a B2B kind of a business. And we are saying it makes it very expensive for these small businesses who are trying to create jobs in the counties to do that. And I think that's something maybe we start looking at in terms of ease of doing business, how do counties rank?
Yes.
And what is the best way forward in terms of moving that? Because I think it cuts across a lot of businesses, and SMEs are hardest hit.
Yes.
Because they're the ones who you find they have to pay, like for a bar, you find sometimes they have like 7, 8, 9 different licenses. You have a fire license, you have a food license, you have a liquor license, you have a trading license. You have all these licenses that at the end of it all, you look at it, it's very expensive. And one of the things that we really struggled with is illicit alcohol.
Yes.
And one of the things we look at, so we did a research early this year with a research company called Euro Monitor International and our ABAC association. And we found that 60% of the alcohol being consumed in Kenya is illicit. And one of the challenges of that is the cost of doing business.
Yes.
You find we try with our Senator Keg program, we try to recruit people who are doing illicit to come and sell formal. Because we try and tell you the cost of doing the illicit, you are paying, you have to bribe someone here, you're being arrested, you have to pay fines here. If you look at that cost, it's actually quite high. But if you transition to a formal business, you probably pay less because you are legitimate and no one is coming to harass you. But now when you start looking at all the levies that now and licenses you have to pay within the counties, it becomes very lucrative for people to do illicit.
Yes.
Because at the end of it all, it's about profit. So I start looking at it and I'm like, yeah, if I do the illicit, I'll make more money than if I'm formal.
Yet even the licensing process by counties, it's also a form of revenue collection.
Yes.
And, the counties will be more inclined towards making more money, even through those you're calling illicit. How are you partnering with different county governments to?
So one of the things is just addressing what are the issues, and we start saying, look, this is the cost of if someone wanted to establish a formal business, this is what they have to incur. And this is how much you're losing, because if you look at the ecosystem that you're operating in, you have this number of outlets that are illicit and which operate 24 hours. So you have these restrictions on bars where they can open at only certain times. But this illicit guy, even if you go now, right now, they are probably already selling. So how do you transition the communities to, first of all, create value and also eliminate the negative consequences of such products, especially like on things on public health. You have people dying, you have people getting maimed because of consuming these illicit products. And how do you want to give dignity also to the people doing the business? Because some of these, and unfortunately, most of them are ladies. But how do you give them dignity in terms of the kind of environment you want them to operate in? And that's some of the incentives we think that counties can go out and say, we can give you a moratorium. If you formalize your business, we'll probably give you 2 years of not paying any of the licenses, so that it becomes formal. Then from there on, it becomes more sustainable, even for the counties to collect their own revenue.
And for that, you might depend a lot on the legislative processes in different counties. How is that working out? Because now you have to do and compare standards from one county to separate.
So we've tried to do a model county laws, especially on alcohol licensing. Of course, the rates will vary depending on the size of the county. Like for Nairobi, obviously, they'll be more expensive. But we're trying to look at counties and where they sit in terms of economic development, and saying you probably should have a range of where your licensing fees should be at, so that you can be able to facilitate that. And I think the other thing that's coming out strongly is automation, because there are also so many loopholes when it's not automated. So those leakages in revenue collection, they also undermine what the counties are trying to do, because they're under pressure to collect their own revenue. But if there are leakages where you cannot be able to know who has a legitimate license and who is not paying, I think those are opportunities for them to be able to plug those holes, and they'll see a big advantage coming through to them and formalize. I don't think it's in anyone's interest to have a very strong informal sector, because it's when things become formal that you can actually see the fruits of economic growth.
Now, having to operate on a cross-cultural where religions differ from one county to another, are county governments assisting in that conversation? Because I know some counties may want to have laws that restrict even alcohol consumption to a great extent. In that sense, does the devolution and these county governments help?
I think it's quite objective. If you look at it, even the counties where they are quite inclined on religious beliefs, I think the ultimate goal we actually bring out is that we are a hospitality industry. Hospitality has to be supported, and hospitality comes from the beverage industry, food industry, and a lot of these things coexist. And I think it's just looking at what are the biggest opportunities for you. For example, you look at a county like Mombasa or Kwale, hospitality is big, tourism is big. So you can actually have both coexisting, because you're targeting a customer who is not necessarily a Kenyan. You're targeting someone who's coming to bring their dollars and euros into the economy. So how do you accommodate them within that space without infringing on the religious beliefs of the different communities that we have in Kenya?
Right. Matters to do with the environment and and sustainability. I know the environment is all much has to do with the environment and a devolved function.
Yes.
County governments
Yeah.
as a big supplier of products to these counties. How are you working with county governments with that?
So that's another area where we've a huge focus for us. I think if you look at our product, it's reliant on water, for example. So one of the things we're trying to do is how do we protect the water towers within the country? And we're doing a big project right now within Muranga, which is the main catchment area for the Tana River Basin. And one of the things that we're doing is that we have worked with an organization called the Nature Kenya. And what we are doing with them is we have an initiative which we're working with other corporates and other counties as well. So it's called the Upper Tana Water Nairobi Trust. And with that forum, we're able to bring the county governments of Kiambu, Muranga, Nyeri, and Nyandarua in terms of protecting the Aberdare forest. And one of the things we're trying to do is also helping farmers downstream in terms of how do they protect the water that comes out of the Aberdare. So there's tree planting is one. So we've done a lot of work in tree planting. We're also doing a bit of work in Mount Kenya. And one of the things also we are doing is working with these farmers who are on the watershed going down all the way to the hydro projects in terms of protecting the soil, because first of all, siltation is a big issue that goes into the dams that provide Nairobi water with the water that is brought to Nairobi. Working with them to ensure that they are doing terracing. They are also not planting eucalyptus near the river, the riparian. So they're now moving into things like avocado, which is bringing them a lot of income. Just transitioning them into better practice that can be able to help in terms of ensuring that the water quality improves, but also that we secure the water for the future generations, because as the population grows, there's scarce water resources, and we need to ensure that they're sustainable to be able to serve both the industrial purposes and also for domestic users.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's also the issue of waste management. A lot of your products have various kinds of packaging.
Yes.
And this is still a problem for the county administration.
Yes, yes, and it's still something that we're working closely with the county. So one of the successes for us, I think, has been on our beer business. We are able to reuse our bottles. What now we have moved to is the project we call Project Rudisha, is reusing our spirits glasses. Okay. And that's work we are working actually closely with the county governments in terms of having aggregators or youth who can actually collect these bottles, do the first cleaning, and then we do the last cleaning in our plant before we use them again to package bottles. And that has very good, it's creating jobs for the youth in terms of the collection. It's good for the environment because now we have less glass going to the landfills, and also it's good for energy because glass production consumes a lot of energy. So once you reuse, you're actually cutting down on the emissions that are created from the energy production of glass bottles.
Right.
Yeah.
Looking at the 12 years of devolution, and some critics argue that these units are not economically viable.
Yeah.
But from a business perspective, from EABL, you're looking at pre-devolution and post-devolution.
Yeah.
How is it looking for business?
I think for business, there's a major improvement. Of course, it has its challenges. I think because if you look at some of the counties, they are so constrained in terms of revenue generation, and they have very little options. And for us, especially now in the liquor business, is liquor licenses becomes one of the key sources of revenue. Some counties have advantages over others in terms of the economic contribution. Like for agriculture, for example, SES is a big one, so they're able to collect revenue from SES collection.
Even when it comes to moving farm
raw materials
from one county to another.
You have to pay cess at the origin, where the grain is coming from.
Okay.
So you find that those charges sometimes can be extreme in some counties, but you understand there needs to be a way national government, or both national and county governments, how do you rationalize revenue generation within the counties? Because some you might find might be disadvantaged in terms of being able to provide the services the citizens require with the same revenue. And I know that's a conversation that's been happening in terms of revenue sharing within governments, within national government and the county governments, and I'm sure it's a debate that's going to continue as we continue.
And now that you have to work with specific counties with different requirements, you say some charges are different. Has it changed the nature of how your business is run in terms of management? Do you now have to have specific offices in different counties for you to understand the uniqueness?
So we try to structure them in blocks, because that's, I think, and I see even with the counties, you find that there's a lake basin block, trying to see how do we address common challenges. But I think the other biggest opportunity has been the Council of Governors, having a secretariat that can actually canvass issues and say, these are the challenges we are facing. We have these disparities from one county to another, like issues on branding, for example, where you find like our vans that our sales representatives use. If you based in Kisumu, for example, and you need to cross over to Kakamega, you cross over to Kakamega and they're asking you, you've not paid. Yeah, sometimes you're going for a funeral, you're not even going for business. So that's some of the challenges that we say. How do you make it easier for business? So some areas have become more complex. So in terms of how we structure ourselves, again, we look at the issues, agriculture, where do you operate? So you address those with the CECs in those counties, and also now looking at the forums where you have like the forums for CECs on agriculture, for example. Make sure you participate in forums like this. We support, and we are broad sponsors on this conference, just ensuring that you have touch points where you can be able to bring up your issues and look for ways to make things better.
And now if you may focus on this particular forum, I was talking to some of the partners and they were hoping for at least finalization of a policy process that probably will be announced at the end of probably today. Is there any specific takeaway you're hoping for at the end of this?
I think not particularly with this in the conference, for example, but I think there's some work that's already ongoing, which I don't think can be concluded because there are a lot of process that has to be done through policy formulation, whether it's public participation, whether it's the different bills that have to be passed within the different counties. So, and there are different stages. So I don't think we can expect to achieve everything just in one single conference.
But EABL, I understand you have a stand within this.
Yes, we do.
And what else? What other activities do we expect from EABL?
So EABL, what we are focusing on at the moment here actually is mainly on the support we're giving to farmers, because it's a lot of work we do from the agriculture perspective in terms of we have our own seed, so we develop our own seed ourselves, which is trying to address the issues of drought resistance, because with climate change, you need seeds that can be able to perform well within a constrained environment of less water, less rain, and also the different ecological systems we have in Kenya. So the same seed we use in Western Kenya might not be the same one that can work well in Eastern. So in terms of, so there's a lot of research we do, and also telling farmers about, like now we're about to go to a planting season, what do we expect? This is how you apply to become a farmer. This is the price you expect from your crop when we grow it, and this is how you can interact with the different field officers who are available within the different counties. So we have a stand that's speaking about that. We have another stand also that's talking about positive drinking, basically in terms of how can you consume alcohol, in a moderated way, because we think alcoholism is an issue that we have to be addressed, and so we have a stand just talking about what we call drink IQ. What alcohol does to your body, what are the recommended units for different sexes, for example, males and female. So we have an area where we are educating people about that, because we want also to empower people with knowledge that they can be able to utilize even as they enjoy our products.
Do county governments assist in any way as far as probably opening up their communities to some of the opportunities you offer? Like you say, in agriculture, Homa Bay is a big contributor to that. Some of these opportunities, many other communities in other counties may not be aware of that. Are you facing any challenges in that, or are county governments assisting?
County governments have been very supportive. I can tell you, Homa Bay, for example, has been supportive. Kisumu as well, working with even with the leadership at the governor's level. Muranga is another one I talked about. Tharaka Nithi, also very supportive. Narok, where we do barley mainly, we also have a lot of support from the county, and working closely with the CECs and having forums also with the farmers, just to address the various challenges that they may have, which some of them we can sort out from our side, but also there's some support they need from government, and also even other private sector partners like financial institutions, where we're trying to link them up in terms of getting support from loans and things like that.
All right. And finally, as we come to an end, some people have criticized this forum saying they're simply talk shops and with very little consequence. From your perspective, now dealing with county governments 12 years on, do you believe that the devolution conference is consequential, and how consequential is it?
I think if you look at the amount, when you look around the ecosystem within this region now, the amount of hospitality business that has come to this county and the surrounding counties, because there's a lot of spillovers even to the neighboring counties. It's a lot of potential, and you can tell even the quality of services that were there probably 12 years ago are not what you see now. There are better hospitality establishments, there are better hotels. So I think it's good for the way the conferences are moved around the country, and it also helps people to benchmark and see what's working and what people can aspire to be. So, and I think if you look at the work that Governor Wanga has done within Homa Bay, you can see the transformation is happening. So, and I think it should be a challenge to the other counties to say, what can we learn from this and what can we replicate within our counties in service of helping our citizens become more economically empowered.
And looking forward, now that you've identified with the counties, you see the potential of probably the hospitality industry, especially even with the blue economy. Homa Bay County has 80% of the Lake Victoria shoreline in Kenya. Are county governments receptive of some of these suggestions from you that not necessarily EABL related businesses, but businesses that could eventually boost your business?
And I think it comes back to the point I was bringing about ease of doing business. How is it easy for you to get a building permit to build a hotel next to the lake here? So some of the things that counties should start looking at and saying, how do we make it more easier for investors to come in and put an investment like that? Training, for example, how do you train your staff? How do you absorb guys coming out of hospitality colleges like Utalii to come into this space and provide? Because Kenya is known to have one of the best trained staff in hospitality. How do you utilize those opportunities to create opportunities for people to be able to get work? Infrastructure, we're talking about the airstrip, the roads, in terms of how people access this side of the country. And you don't need to travel out of the country to get the best of tourism. I think you can be able to get that within Kenya. And I think that's the only way we can be able to grow the economy, because it transcends from big corporates, the small businesses, the person who's making the food by the lake, giving that fish, they're able to make some income, and that income goes into providing better opportunities for everyone else.
All right. Devolution going forward, are you optimistic? Are you pessimistic? Are you skeptical?
I'm optimistic. I think there are very many opportunities. I think we need to have a business lens to it in terms of where do you want to go, in terms of economic recovery, opportunities for youth, I think, and that's the biggest opportunity we have. How do we create opportunities for the jobless youth, and how do we build skills? One of the things I forgot to mention is that even within our ecosystem, we are training youth with skills and working closely with counties, especially in the hospitality industry, and I think that's a transformation that we can see across the country.
All right. Eric Kiniti, thank you so much. Eric Kiniti is EABL Corporate Relations Director. One of the partners, EABL is one of the partners here at Devolution Conference 2025. And if at all you're wondering how EABL comes into this conversation about devolution, issues about agriculture, environment, waste management, and the hospitality industry. Yes, indeed. Devolution carries everything with it. It's just one of the partners of this conference that's coming to an end today, and will be officially closed by Deputy President Professor Kithure Kindiki in a few hours' time. Well, we continue with these conversations here, and we'll be beaming live some of the events from the main plenary tent, and even from some of the discussions happening in the breakaway tents, even from the stands as well. Our reporters are still on ground. We have Chichi Josephine, Micah Gwongo, and Liz Mutuku, who are also keen to bring you more details about what's happening on the very last day of Devolution Conference 2025 happening in Homa Bay County, county number 43. I'll take you back to Nairobi for more programming. My name is Fred Indemuli. See you later.